그러면 두 번째 강연을 시작하도록 하겠습니다. 두 번째 강연은 와세대학의 야마베 노부요시 교수님께서 해주시겠습니다. 1999년입니다. 예일대학에서 아까 앞에서 말씀드린 대로 관불 삼매 해경에 관한 연구로 박사학위를 받으셨습니다. 그래서 이 텍스에 관한 연구에 말하자면 새로운 이제 한 장을 여셨고요. 그 다음에 규슈 류코쿠 단기대학의准교수와 도쿄 농업대학 교수를 계시다가 2015년부터 와세다 대학의 문학학술원 교수로 재직 중이십니다. 제가 앞에서 말씀드린 대로 인도 중앙아시아 중국에서 전개된 관불 수행 및 관련 문헌에 관해서는 세계 최고의 전문가로 꼽을 수 있습니다. 아울러 이런 종교 행위 외에도 유가사질원 등을 중심으로 유가행파 사상에도 상당히 심도 있는, 그래서 관심을 가지시고 심도 있는 연구를 펼쳐 오셨습니다. 그래서 이런 주제와 관련된 불교미술에 대해서도 깊은 관심을 가지시고 인도와 중앙아시아의 불교 석굴 사원에서 이런 관상 선관 수행이 어떻게 이루어졌을 것인가를 해명하는 데도 관심을 가지시고 많은 논문을 내셨습니다. 구마라집이 번역한 좌선산매경을 영어로 번역하셨고, 그 다음에 국제학계에서도 아주 많은 논문을 발표하시면서 지금도 활발하게 활동을 펼치고 계십니다. 오늘 강연하실 주제는 저기 보시는 것처럼 사실은 원래 저희가 포스에 나간 것과는 제목이 바뀌었습니다. 제가 그 논문을 받아보고 제목이 좀 달라져야 될 것 같다고 이제 의논을 했었는데요. 그래서 우주의 나무에서 아마 출발한 모티프일 텐데, 그 나무 위에 부처님 또 보살 또 그 밖에 성문 비구들도 나오기 때문에 그 사실은 야마베 교수님이 불보살만을 얘기하는데 조금 꺼리시긴 했는데, 성인으로 하자 그랬는데 불보살을 성인으로 바꾸면 좀 우리말로는 또 말이 또 좀 잘 안 되잖아요. 그래서 불보살님만 이렇게 썼고요. 이 모티프가 출발점은 이제 그 일본의 도상부라고 하는 도상 책들이 있고요. 그것이 다이쇼 대정신수 대장경의 도상부라고 하는 시리즈가 10여 권으로 된 것이 있는데, 거기에 각선초라고 하는 책이 있습니다. 각선이 만든 도상집인데, 가쿠젠쇼라고 하는 책에 실린 그림이 상당히 그 기원을 따라 올라가면 인도까지 멀리 올라가고, 그 과정에서 이 의미도 상당히 변했을 것이고, 그 과정을 추적하시는 과정을 말씀하시겠습니다. 그래서 저하고 말씀 나누실 때 이건 오늘 것은 관상에 대한 것이라기보다는 비전에 관한 것이다 라고 말씀하셔서, 제가 앞에서 오늘은 visionary experience에 관한 것이라고 말씀드렸고요. 그러니까 그것이 만들어지게 된 데는 누가 그런 비전을 본 사람들도 있겠죠. 뭐 아까 말씀드린 것처럼 우주의 나무를 수행 중에 본 사람들도 있었을 테고, 거기 이제 부처님들이 앉아 있는 것을 본 사람들도 있었을 것이고, 그런 여러 가지 우리가 알 수 없는 과정을 거쳐서 결국 가쿠젠쇼 같은데 그런 이미지들이 나오지 않았을까 싶습니다. 야마베 교수님은 한국과도 인연이 상당히 있어서 아마 제가 제일 처음 초청을 했었는지 모르겠는데 2005년도인가 4년도에 중앙아시아학회 학술회의 한번 오셨고요. 그래서 그때 발표하신 논문이 중앙아시아학회에서 나온 한글 논문이 실려 있어서 오늘 것과 이제 관련해서 보셔도 좋을 것 같습니다. 자, 그러면 야마베 교수님을 모시고 두 번째 강연을 듣도록 하겠습니다. 박수로 환영해 주시기 바랍니다.
Professor Lee, thank you very much for your very kind introduction and for giving me this precious opportunity to talk at this National University, which I understand is a very important center of the research of Buddhist art. However, like Professor Greene, I have some hesitation because, although I often pretend to be art historian, actually I'm not. Yeah, my background is also like Professor Greene, Buddhist texts. Yeah, and when I was a student, I never received formal training in Buddhist art, so I don't know why I'm writing so many papers on Buddhist art. But anyway, Okay, so first of all, I understand this lecture is about visualization. And also Professor Greene has already mentioned there are two important relevant concepts. One is visualization and the other is vision. And I understand that visualization is a conscious effort to build some visual image in the practitioner's mind. So you draw some picture in your mind consciously, and create the image of Buddha or Pure Land, those sorts of things. And on the other hand, vision refers to some visual images that emerge to the practitioner spontaneously. So it's not the result of a conscious effort to build some image. It is more mystical experience. And so these two should be distinguished. Nevertheless, I believe that these two are also not unrelated. These are also somehow related. Yeah. And as an example, Professor Greene already gave some examples, but let me give you another example. This is Sanskrit sutra that corresponding to the Chinese Madhyama Agama recently discovered by Professor Matsuda from the manuscript called Tridanda Mara. Yeah, and it gives the similar description. So this is a Shiva practice. The practitioner should go to the charnel ground and observe the corpse and grasp the appearance. Nimitan udugri hitabian. Yeah. And then after grasping the image, he should come back to his own residence and meditate on the image he has just seen. Yeah, something like this. So these are the stages of the decomposition of the body. And again, as has been already mentioned, the technique of Buddha visualization seems to be some kind of further development of that traditional method of Ashiva practice. Yeah, and so this is one example. But this is already discussed by Professor Greene, so I need not to go into the detail. Yeah. And then, how about vision? And here, usually people quote from Indian Buddhist texts. Yeah, but since these examples are already well known, at least to specialists, here I'd like to quote some examples from Japanese monk. Yeah, the experience of modern Japanese monk. And one example is this Reverend Horizawa Somon. He is one of the important masters in modern Japanese Tendai tradition. And he practiced this kosogyo. He practiced seclusion on Mount Hiei for 12 years. And in order to start that practice, first you have to get confirmatory vision, as he said. And this is called kosogyo. And in that practice, you repeatedly prostrate to the Buddha. And every time you chant the name of one Buddha, and you repeat that endlessly. Yeah, and so this is a very hard, tough practice. So obviously you'll be exhausted. And also you get lots of frustration because you cannot see the vision so easily. Yeah, so your expectation to see the Buddha is repeatedly, disappointed. Yeah. But finally, when you abandon all your hope, then you get the experience. Yeah, and yeah, so he was completely exhausted, and he was dozing at midnight, and suddenly the Buddha appeared from the darkness. Enormously shocked, I woke up at once, and even after I woke up, however, the Buddha was still clearly visible. Yeah, and the Buddha was clearly visible as if he had escaped from the surrounding darkness. Yeah, so this is a very vivid experience. Yeah, and another experience is this one. This is Jaeyeon Kuban, the experience. And Jaeyeon Kuban is actually a French guy. And he was ordained in Japan and followed the traditional Japanese Shugendo practice. That is a sort of ascetic practice in deep mountains. And he actually practiced seclusion in one of the caves. Yeah, and this also is a very difficult practice, lots of pain. Yeah, but after those difficult days, he repeatedly got a visionary experience. So, for example, he saw clouds and fog split in front of him, or he had a revelation. So he saw a glowing swarm of fireflies, and also he had an experience of fluffy walk or walking on clouds, etc. A strange experience. Yeah. So when you are completely exhausted, sometimes you seem to see these sorts of strange scenes. Yeah. So visions are not the image you have built in your mind consciously. They are spontaneous. Still, one typically gets a vision in an extreme situation, reclining on the couch and eating potato chips, and you can't get vision, this kind of vision, right? Yeah. So it requires very rigorous practice. Yeah. And even in that situation, I believe Bodhisattva, the Japanese Tendai monk, would not see a vision of Virgin Mary. He sees Buddha, right? And Joan of Arc wouldn't get a vision of Avalokiteshvara. I think that's impossible. So one sees something one has experienced before. One sees the image of something one is familiar with. So the Buddha, and today I'm discussing the image of Buddha and Bodhisattvas on a tree. And this would be one of those visionary images. But I think even visionary images must have a historical background. Yeah, because the practitioners had that kind of image already in their mind, so they see that kind of vision, I believe. So historical research also makes sense, I think. Okay. And visualization sutras, and there are in the Chinese canon we have so-called 6 visualization sutras, and the most famous among these 6 is the last one, Guan Lian Shoujin. That is Amitabha's visualization sutra, and this is a very popular one in East Asia, in China, in Japan, and I believe in Korea as well. And for example, this is a Dongfang mural painting based on that Amitabha's visualization sutra. Yeah. However, philologically, this is a very problematic text, and there are lots of arguments about the geographical origin of the text. Yeah, but this discussion is quite difficult. One of the reasons is that for the core portion of this Guan Lian Shoujin, the visualization method, we don't have a parallel text in Sanskrit. So we cannot compare the visualization method described in this sutra with some definitely Indian text. Yeah. And this is one of the reasons I studied the first one, Guan Fu Sanmei Haijin. That was the topic of my doctoral dissertation. And this one is easier to approach, I believe. One of the reasons is for this one, we have a somewhat parallel Sanskrit text. And that is the so-called Yogalehrbuch. Yeah. And Guan Fu Sanmei Haijin teaches, well, Guan Lian Shoujin, of course, teaches how to visualize Amitabha's Buddha, Amitofo, and his Pure Land. Whereas this Guan Fu Sanmei Haijin teaches how to visualize Shakyamuni Buddha. So the objects are different, but the structure and approach in these 2 sutras are quite similar. So if we can sort of determine the geographical origin of Guan Fu Sanmei Haijin, then it would be quite likely that Guan Lian Shoujin shares the same background. Yeah, so this is my dissertation. And then, this is a Sanskrit meditation text. It is usually referred to as Yogalehrbuch. Yeah, and I wrote a few papers, and this is the most important and directly relevant one. And this, as I said, is a Sanskrit meditation text, and several manuscripts have been reported. and they found in these two. One is this Kucha area, and the other is this Karashar area, right? And particularly the biggest manuscript of this available manuscript was found in Kizel, which is a big cave site in the Kucha area. So sometimes this text is called Kizel text. So Kizel looks this way, as there are many Buddhist caves. And this is Shorchuk. Shorchuk is a monastery, monastic ruin in the Karashar area. Okay, and Professor Dieter Schwingroff, Professor Lee has already mentioned. Dieter Schwingroff, that birchbark manuscript, found in Kizel, was terribly fragmentary. So this is a tree skin, right? So when it is fresh, it is soft. But it's left in the extremely dry climate of Xinjiang for at least several hundred years, right? So now it's completely dry and very, very, very fragile. And so as a result, it is fragmentarized terribly. So it is not legible. It was not legible at all. But Professor Schwingroff painstakingly reassembled the fragments and made a significant portion readable. And he published his edition and translation in this book. And this is a facsimile publication of the manuscript itself. And later, these two are republished as this one. And for the Professor Schwingroff's work itself, this is exact reproduction, no change. But after the publication of these two books, some additional manuscripts have been identified. And those additional manuscripts are also included, edition and translation, are included in the new publication. So now we should use this 2006 version. And as I said, we usually call that text Yogalehrbuch. And this is taken from Professor Schwingroff's title, Ein Buddhistisches Yogalehrbuch. And this simply means a Buddhist yoga textbook, right, in German. And it's strange, but this is a Sanskrit text, and why should we use a German word to call this Sanskrit text? The answer is that, as I said, the manuscript is so fragmentary, so we don't have the colophon that should have retained the original title. So we don't know the original Sanskrit title. So just for the convenience sake, we use a German title. So it is German, but the content is Sanskrit. And this is a highly visionary text filled with very strange visionary images. So I think we should say that this is not a visualization text. This text does not teach how to build images. There are many strange images, but images just appear to the mind of the practitioner. So this text is a vision text, I think. Okay, so one of those strange visions is this one. So for some reason, tree emerges. Tree of precious substance stands up from the crystal man's head, filling the boundless realms of the world. So this is a huge tree, cosmic tree, that fills the whole cosmos. And on the leafy branches of the tree, Buddhas are seen preaching the Dharma. So on the branches of that gigantic tree, Buddhas, in plural, so many Buddhas are sitting on the branches, and they are teaching the Dharma. And this is rooted in based on the golden disk, right? So it is the bottom of the cosmic system. So this is really a cosmic tree, a huge tree. And this is the Ocean Sutra. Ocean Sutra is my short title for the Guanfo Samei Haijin and the Shakyamuni Visualization Sutra, right? It says that the pores of the body of the emanation, but like flowering trees. Each flowering tree reaches upward towards the world of Brahman. So again, this is a very huge cosmic tree. And among the flowers and leaves, there are 100,000 cotes. Cote is a unit of big number. Cotes of monks. So innumerable monks are seated on the flowers and leaves of the huge tree. Yeah. So here it is monks, and in the Yogalehrbuch it is Buddhas. But the image itself is quite similar, I think. Yeah. And also emanation Buddhas are mentioned in this passage. Yeah, and similar cosmic tree image appears a couple of other places in the same sutra. Yeah, and I guess this cosmic tree can be interpreted as an example of the axis mundi, the cosmic pillar image. Okay, and then, as Professor Lee has mentioned in his introduction, in Japanese collection of esoteric iconography entitled Kakuzensho, we can find this image. Yeah, and as you see, many Buddhas are sitting on the tree, right? And so when I first saw this image, I saw that, oh, this is pictorial representation of the image found in the Yogalehrbuch and the Guanpasame Haijin. Yeah. However, the matter is not that simple. So fairly, agree fairly well with this passage we have just seen. However, this text Kakuzensho gives a completely different explanation. Yeah, so this is the text. And okay, so it says, in the town record, the following story is found. There are mandalas of Amitabha in Kuktarama or Ketmate. And this is how to interpret the Chinese phonetic transcription. So I would think that Ketmate is more likely, but I don't get into the detail. Monastery in India, there was a Bodhisattva who had attained the 5 miraculous powers. He visited the land of bliss with his mortal body, and so usually you go to the Pure Land after your death. But he had a miraculous power. This Bodhisattva had a miraculous power, so he traveled to Skabati with his this present body, right? And he said to the Amitabha Buddha, people in the Saha world are called Amitabha Buddha to mind, but there's no recourse. They don't know how Amitabha looks like. So what should they do? Amitabha Buddha said, return to the Saha world, and in that world, show how Sakavati looked. Thereupon, the Bodhisattva quickly returned to his own monastery and painted images of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas on the leaves of a tree in the monastery. When people gathered the leaves of the tree and counted them, there were 52 images of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. For this reason, painters during the period painted this image as main images for temples. Okay, so very different explanation from the Yogalehrbuch and the Guanpasame Haijin. Yeah. However, this explanation, I think, is also strange because this explanation does not really match the painting. Why do you paint Buddhas on the leaves of a tree? That doesn't really make sense, right? And if it makes sense, perhaps this is one possibility. Yeah, in Japanese Buddhist ritual, we use this kind of thing, paper petals. Yeah, and during the Buddhist ceremony, monks scatter this kind of paper petal to decorate the daochan, the hall where the ceremony is held. Yeah, so this is one possibility, but anyhow, and also, if you look at that painting, Buddhas are not actually painted on the leaves. And also, no Bodhisattva is found in the painting, right? Well, in this painting, Buddhas are literally sitting on the leaves, right? And they don't seem to be painted on the leaves, right? So this explanation, I think, doesn't really make sense. Right. So they are literally perching on the leaves or branches like birds. And these are details. If these really represent Amitabha Buddha and other bodhisattvas, the topmost one must be Amitabha, right? That's what we expect. And topmost one looks this way. And this is just a fronting, to the side of the Buddha. Amitabha Buddha, they look exactly the same, right? So I don't think they are Bodhisattvas. They are all simply Buddhas. So this one depicts simply 52 Buddhas. So the explanation and the painting do not match. Yeah. And also, why Buddhas and Bodhisattvas should be painted on the leaves is not explained in the story. And Buddha and Bodhisattva painted on the leaves do not seem particularly sacred, at least to my eye. Yeah, right. So it's not the way to glorify Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, I think. And so my first suspicion was that perhaps this story was invented by somebody who did not understand the original meaning of the painting. Yeah. So this story is very suspicious. However, the matter is not that simple. Yeah. Because similar stories are attested in Chinese sources as well. And this is one of that, Jaeyeon or Sambao or Ganton Lu. Yeah, and I don't have time to get into the detail, but anyway, there's a very similar story. And Buddha and Bodhisattvas were respectively seated on lotus flowers on leaves of a tree. Yeah, so very similar explanation. Yeah. And then the Bodhisattvas took the leaves and copied the leaves on which the Buddha and the Bodhisattvas were seated here and there. I think that is what it means. And so Bodhisattva, the painting of this strange tree somehow appeared in this world. It was a present from Skavati. And so that Bodhisattva who had attained 5 miraculous powers received that gift. And then he took the leaves and copied the leaves, right? But how can you take leaves from painted tree, right? I don't quite understand. Yeah. So this explanation also is strange, I think. Yeah. And this is Fayuan Juhyung, and it also has a very similar explanation. I think this is probably taken from the Ganton Lu. And then Shugao Senjuan also have a similar story. Yeah. So this story was, at least to some extent, known in Chinese Buddhist circles. And so this passage must have been taken from the Ganton Lu, I think. And this story was well known in China, we can assume. And also, this story is attested even in an inscription. Yeah, this Wolongxiang has this inscription. And the inscription reads this way. And again, I can't go into the detail, but anyway, the story is very, very similar. Yeah. And so it says, and Buddha and 50 Bodhisattvas respectively seated on lotus flowers on leaves of a tree. Yeah. So the explanation is very similar to the Kakuzensho explanation. Yeah. So there is a tree, and on the leaves there are lotus flowers, and on those lotus flowers, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are seated. Yeah. And also, one strange point is that in this inscription, the title says Amitabha and 52 Bodhisattvas. But in the main text, it says Amitabha and 50 Bodhisattvas. Yeah, so just 2 lines away, it says different things. Yeah. Right. So the date of this inscription, this is a dated inscription, and the date is 634. And this is even earlier than the Ganton Lu. So this story was not an invention by Dao Xuan. It circulated before him. Yeah. And as I said, the title and the text says different things. And this inscription is attached to this niche. Yeah. And this is easiest to see. And so this is the main Buddha, and 2 big Bodhisattvas are standing on both sides of the main Buddha, and there are small Bodhisattvas, and all of them are seated on lotus flowers. Yeah. So apparently, if you count only these small Bodhisattvas, they are 50. And if you include these big ones, then the number comes to 52. Yeah, so probably this is not a big problem, I think. Yeah. Yeah, and 552, this is just my guess. Yeah, but in East Asia, quite often we hear the 52 stages of the practice of Bodhisattva. Yeah, and perhaps that is the association, I imagine. Yeah, and okay, but here again, there's a problem. In this niche, the Buddha and Bodhisattvas are seated on lotus flowers, that's for sure, but I cannot see a tree, right? So even though the inscription says that they are seated on the lotus flowers on the leaves of the tree, I cannot see any tree. Yeah. So no fear, the text and art match nicely. Yeah. Besides as it may, these types of images are widely seen in China. Actually, there are many other examples, particularly in the Sichuan province. Yeah, yeah. And so let's see some other examples. Yeah, this is just another niche in Wolongshan. This is very similar. Yeah, but again, there's Buddha and Bodhisattvas, and all of them are seated on lotus seats, but we cannot see a tree. This is New Jai, and again, yeah, with many Buddhas and Bodhisattvas seated on lotus flowers, but we cannot see a tree. This is Xiansi. Here, well, I don't have a nice picture, so this is just taken from the internet, so it's not very nice, please excuse me. These statues are obviously later, but originally they must have been main central Buddha and the Bodhisattvas, I guess. And then here we can see trees, yeah, 4 trees, yeah, and there are also 3 trees, and I guess on this side also there are 4 trees, and there are small bodhisattvas. But again, here also, I think these small bodhisattvas are simply floating in the air. They are not seated on the tree. Yeah, so again, this does not match that story. This is the same cave. Yeah, so tens of bodhisattvas and 8 trees on both side walls. And small saintly figures are seen on or above the trees, but they seem to be flying in the air, not sitting on the trees. Yeah, this is another example. And yeah, not very clear, but apparently there is a small tree cap here. Yeah, so here we can see tree. But again, on the tree, no bodhisattva is sitting. Yeah, bodhisattvas are sitting on these lotus seats. Yeah. This is another example. Here, again, sorry, in the picture is not very nice, but we see 2 trees. And this is the main Buddha and 2 fronting bodhisattvas. And small bodhisattvas are here. And 2 chapels. But again, on the trees, no bodhisattva is seen, right? Yeah, so it's like this. So on the trees, no seated figures can be confirmed. Yeah. And also, let's see some more examples. Yeah, this is Dazu. This is again not very clear, but apparently there are 2 trees here and here. But again, 2 trees on both sides of the main Buddha, but also many bodhisattvas are seen around here. But on the trees, no bodhisattvas are sitting. This is Roman. Well, these are all. I haven't seen any of these directly. Yeah, I'm based on either published pictures or internet pictures. Yeah, so my observation is tentative, but anyhow, similar image. Main Buddha. These are monks, I guess, arhats. But anyway, fronting saintly figures. And there are many small figures on lotus flowers. But again, on the first look, this could look like tree, but actually I don't think they are trees. They are just empty space. This is just empty space. So many small figures, probably bodhisattvas, are seated on many lotus seats. Okay, so many small bodhisattvas, but they are not sitting on trees. Okay, and then in Dunfan, there's a very famous example, Mogao Cave 332. And this is usually understood as Amitayus, preaching mudra, and two standing bodhisattvas, big bodhisattvas, and small bodhisattvas. And this is an aquatic scene, probably a big pond. And again, all the bodhisattvas are seated on lotus flowers. And here we can see 3 parasols and also a tree. But again, nobody is sitting on the tree, right? However, except for the trees, the basic arrangement is similar to the carving in Wolong niche number 1. Main seated Buddha and 2 standing bodhisattvas and many small surrounding bodhisattvas, right? So except for this part, this Mogao painting and that Wolong painting look quite similar. And this is clearly different motif, but at least we can see small Buddhas seated on, I guess these are lotus flowers, and they are altogether 7. So presumably they are the 7 Buddhas of the past seated on lotus flowers. And this is also from Dunfan. And that Mogao painting is often compared with this Horyuji painting. And here, this part is badly faded, but we can see a seated, presumably Amitayus in the preaching mudra and 2 standing bodhisattvas. And here are small bodhisattvas, and this is a sketch. And so they are all, the number is smaller, but they are all seated on lotus flowers. So very similar depiction. And here we see a parasol, and they seem to be leaves. So although we can't see a tree, this could be remnants of a tree. So indeed, this one and this one look very similar. Right. But again, again, bodhisattvas are not seated on the trees or leaves, right? Okay. Then there is no example of these saintly figures seated on trees. Actually, there are also some examples. This is one candidate, Shan Shui Si. And according to Mr. Huang Shad study, these 2 main figures, one is Buddha and the other is some Taoist deity. So this is not Amitayus and 50 Bodhisattvas, but anyhow, there are many small figures seated on lotus flowers, and this could look like a tree leaves. So it's sort of difficult to determine because these must be lotus flowers, but the petals of the lotus flowers are sort of exaggerated. So if you further exaggerate this, it could look like this way. So this may be just enlarge the lotus flowers, but also could look like tree leaves. So if they are tree leaves, this can be one example of saintly figures seated on trees. Right. And then, regarding the image of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas seated on lotus flowers, this image goes back to India. And this is one example in Ajanta cave. So there are many small lotus flowers, and they are sort of growing from the same root. However, one big difference is here all the figures are Buddhas. Yeah. And in the Chinese image we have seen, the central figure is Buddha, but the surrounding figures were small bodhisattvas. So the lotus image itself is very similar, but this image as a whole is not directly relevant. And closer is this famous Muhammad Ali study. This might be Skavati, but well, I don't know. And anyway, there are many bodhisattva-like figures surrounding the main Buddha. And this is another example. This is also preaching Buddha, and they are clearly bodhisattvas seated on lotus seats. Yeah. So this Buddha and surrounded by small bodhisattvas seated on lotus seats. This image seems to go back to India, or the surrounding areas of India. Yeah. This image is well attested in both India and Dunhuang. Yeah, and so Professor Miyaji says that in India, lotus represents the fertility image. And this Amitais and 50 Bodhisattvas image must have had its roots in India. However, Mr. Huang said that the present iconography of Amitais and 50 Bodhisattvas were established in China, not in India, because the Indian representation and Chinese representation are different in many details. That's his argument. But I think I'd like to side with Professor Miyaji. Yeah, the basic image came from India, I think. Yeah, and also, this is a statement by Professor Fussman. This is not directly on the Amitais, but 50 Bodhisattvas. But he says that the same image could be interpreted differently. Yeah, so the Hinayana people might have thought that those images Sharavasti miracle, but the Mahayanist people thought that this might be Skavati. Yeah, and that kind of thing is going on in the Yogalehrbuch. Yeah. So it is likely that this iconography was modeled after the Buddha's Bodhisattvas on lotuses in India and Dunhuang. Yeah. And in any case, it seems certain that Amitais and 50 Bodhisattvas in China are seated on lotuses, not on a tree. And then how about the Kakuzensho image? Yeah, in Kakuzensho, definitely, these small Buddhas are seated on a tree. And at least here, we can clearly see a lotus flower, very small lotus flower. Yeah. So this was clearly aware of the image of Buddhas or Bodhisattvas seated on the leaves of a tree, or seated on the lotus flowers on the leaves of a tree, right? Yeah. And Dr. Ohara argues that this Gotsu mandalas, if the mandalas of a bodhisattva with 5 supernatural powers themselves were extinct in China, he says, and if their transmission was unseen in Japan as well, it is highly likely that Kakuzen himself had it illustrated specifically for the Kakuzensho. So he thinks that this Kakuzensho image was actually new invention by the compiler of this collection, Kakuzen. Yeah, but, so according to Dr. Ohara, only the story of Gotsu Mandala was transmitted to Japan, but no iconography was transmitted. And so Kakuzen created his own image to fit the story. And however, the image of Buddha seated on the tree is also attested in Central Asia. Yeah, and This is one example. This is on the rear wall of Kumutara Cave 75. And I once wrote a detailed article on this image. And this is the head of a meditating monk. And apparently from his head, a tree is growing. Sorry, in the image is not very clear, but here we can see a seated Buddha. And here also, yeah. So a few Buddhas are sitting on the tree, which is growing above the head of the meditator. Yeah, and this reminds me of this Yogalehrbuch passage. Then a jewel tree stands up from the crystal man's head, filling the boundless realms of the world. On the leafy branches of the tree are seen Buddhas preaching the Dharma. Yeah. So this, I'm not saying that this text was directly connected to that painting, but at least this kind of, because Yogalehrbuch was definitely known in Central Asia. And this painting physically exists in Xinjiang, Central Asia, right? Yeah. So at least we can be certain that this kind of image was well known, at least to some extent known in Central Asia. Yeah. And this is another example. This is from Dufan, and this is from the 10th century, not quite old, but this is part of a big painting. And this is a seated Buddha, and there are trees. And again, we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So probably the 7 Buddhas of the past are seated on the tree, right? And okay, so these are the examples in Xinjiang and Gansu. Then how about in China proper? Yeah. And also, these are not directly relevant to the image of Amitabha and 50 Bodhisattvas, but at least we can see some examples of Buddhas seated on a tree. This again, well, someone might say that these are also exaggerated lotus flowers, but this could look like tree leaves, I think. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so 7 Buddhas, small Buddhas, are seated on trees. Here also, these are most likely trees, right? Yeah, big trunks. And so these might be lotus flowers on the trees, but anyhow, many Buddhas are seated on the trees. Here again, yeah. Yeah, so Buddhas on trees image are tested in Central Asia and China proper. But why are they seated on the tree? And the original question. Why are they seated on the tree? And this point is not understandable from the Amitabha and 50 Bodhisattvas story. That point is not explained, right? And I suspect the source of this image is perhaps the Indian belief that deities reside on a tree. Yeah. And for example, this is Vinaya passage. In various parts of a tree, various deities are residing. Yeah. And this is Sanyutta Nikaya passage. And so it talks about Vana Devata, Rukka Devata, so first deities and three deities. Yeah. And yeah, these are mentioned by Professor Schmidhausen. And also Chishujin, this is a cosmological, Buddhist cosmological text. It mentions first, all forest trees have gods, right? They live there and make them their residences. So trees are the residences of Buddhas. Gods. Yeah, this is Shusonler, also by the Vinaya. Again, similar statement, three deities. Yeah, and this is a Hindu text, Skanda Purana. Yeah, and again, various different deities are residing in various different parts of a tree. Yeah, so apparently these, holy beings or deities residing in various parts of a tree is quite widespread notion in India, both in Buddhist and Hindu traditions. And also in art, this is a part of the parinirvana scene found in Mathura. And there apparently is some deity on the tree. Yeah, he's grieving. and the passing of Shakyamuni Buddha. This is another example. We can see some figure here in the tree. Yeah, this is Kizir. Again, we can see some deity in this tree. Yeah, and this is Sri Lanka, and I totally owe this to Professor Popearacci. So I'm not quite familiar with this story, but apparently this is a scene from the Stasoma Jataka, and so many captured kings are tied to a tree, and the tree nymph is looking at these kings. Yeah, so some superhuman being is residing on that tree. Yeah, and this is a similar image. Yeah. Yeah, this is Professor Popearacci. Yeah, and this is another. This is Trapsha and Barika. They are the two first donors to the Buddha right after his awakening. And in order to Trapsha help these two gentlemen, Saka, deity Saka, the god Saka, climbed the tree and gathered fruits as an offering to the Buddha. Yeah, so here the god is not really residing on the tree, but anyway, we can see a god sitting on that tree. This is an example from Thailand. Yeah, and we can see, as you see, the Buddha's face among these many roots of a tree. This is modern India, in part of New Delhi. At the root of a big tree, we can see a Ganesha enshrined. Yeah, yeah. So some gods reside in tree. Seems to be quite widespread notion and surviving to this day. This is assemblage tree in the Tibetan tradition, right? And in the Western tradition also, we can see something similar. This is a tree of Jesse in the Naples Cathedral. And I'm not a specialist of this sort of thing at all, but apparently this shows the genealogy of Jesus Christ. As you know, Jesus Christ was both divine and human, right? And as a human being, he had his ancestors. Yeah. So this tree shows his ancestral lineage. And this is another example. I guess these are abbots of the monastery. So it shows the monastic succession, monastic genealogy. Yeah. Right. So again, Professor Fissman says, the image found in the Yogalehrbuch may well be, to consider common the example, particularly the phenomenon religio universal. So this is just an example, particular example of quite universal religious phenomena. Yeah, so human beings have similar image all over the world. Yeah, and they are represented in different ways. Yeah, so that tree image might have a very big background, I think. So my tentative conclusions are as follows. Of course, I'm not saying that all these images are historically related. Particularly, those Christian images are clearly, should be distinguished from the other examples. But the sacred figures on the tree seems to be a fairly universal image. Then it is not too unnatural to assume that that image also existed in China. And we can indeed confirm some examples, as we have seen. And the Buddha on the tree image, which originally came from the Indian image of deities on the tree, was introduced to China via Central Asia. And people did not understand its meaning and invented the Amitais and Bodhisattvas story to explain the Buddhas on the tree image. On the other hand, the image of Buddhas on a tree was somehow imported to Japan and retained in the Kakuzensho. Yeah, this is just guess, but The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas on lotus flowers image, which was likewise from India, was also imported to China, independent from the two image. And then the Amitabhas and Bodhisattvas story was erroneously applied to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas on lotus flowers image. Then we did not necessarily doubt the authenticity of the Kakuzensho image. As I've mentioned, some Japanese scholars suspect that that was an invention by Kakuzen, but that's not necessarily the case, I think. And anyway, my final point is that, many art historians, at least in Japan, they study works of art based on text. Yeah, and that's of course important procedure, but that does not always work. And particularly in this case, I think we should treat the visual image and the textual testimony separately, I think. Yeah, everybody tries to understand that Amitabhas and 50 Bodhisattvas image based on that strange story. But I think it's quite possible that the image was transmitted through some channel and the story came from some other channel, and they were not originally connected. And this image was originally much closer to the image found in the Yogalehrbuch and the Guanpo Same Haijin. Thank you very much. 감사합니다.